Okay, so please pay attention to a concept that I'm giving you, and it has to deal with the concept of adoption. Okay, adoption. The concept of adoption is one prominent theme that we find in the Epistle to Galatians. Now, Paul presents that we are adopted. Okay, we are adopted. Datta putrulamu ane మాట ఉంది కదా. So I want to explain to you that from a Roman understanding. Okay, so please pay attention. Do you know this Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar. Okay, okay. Do you know Caesar Augustus? Caesar Augustus. Are they same?
No, sir.
Okay, who are they?
Who declares that when the Jesus was hanged, that's to count the
Okay,
census?
count the census. Augustus Caesar.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So who is Julius Caesar?
In Acts 26, Paul.
No. Those are Festus and Felix. Yeah. And you have Caesar. Caesar is the common name for everybody. Okay. So please pay attention. Julius Caesar. Okay. Julius Caesar, please understand. If I remember correctly, Julius Caesar was actually stabbed by Roman Senate members. Okay, Roman Senate members, because in his days, Rome was actually slowly becoming empire from being republic. Okay, please understand. Okay, everybody. So Julius Caesar was actually one of the great members of the Roman Empire, and those days Rome was actually not an empire. Okay, it was a republic. It was a republic ruled by multiple people. Okay, ruled by multiple people. But then empire is actually controlled or ruled and reigned by one person. That is the emperor himself. Okay, so you have republic and empire. Rome was initially republic, ruled by number of people, senate members, but rather empire is mostly one person. Okay, so Julius Caesar was trying to make Rome into an empire than being a republic. Okay, so when that was happening, the people actually rebelled against him, and then they killed Julius Caesar. So when Julius Caesar died, he was actually a very rich man, but then he died without any children. He died without any children. Okay, so when he did not have children, everybody thinking, I think if I remember correctly, Marcus Antonius was hoping that he will become the next person, the successor of Julius Caesar, because Caesar or Julius did not have children. Okay, so he was hoping that next I will be the main candidate. Okay, but then secretly Julius Caesar wrote a will. Okay, wrote a will, and in the will he declared Augustus. Okay, and his name is Octavius actually. Gaius Octavius. Okay, so this Gaius Octavius actually is a family member of Julius Caesar, but then he lives far away from this place. Okay, so now Gaius Octavius, who actually came to be known later as Augustus. Okay, Caesar Augustus, he was actually living far away, and then he has parents. So now when his uncle passed away, he got the news that Julius Caesar declared Augustus or Gaius Octavius as his successor or as his heir. Okay, so the successor or the one who owns the entire property and the estate of Julius. He was a very wealthy, rich man. Okay, so now everybody was thinking on the funeral, no more, like his life is over and there is nobody because there are no children. Okay, but then during the funeral, you have Gaius Octavius coming up. Okay, they are all surprised because the will that Caesar wrote was not known to anybody. Okay, so Gaius Octavius now takes up after Julius Caesar. Now, does he have children?
No.
Does he have parents?
No.
He has parents. He is not an orphan. Gaius Octavius had parents. And he was a young man, not a babe. నాట్ చిన్నపిల్లవాడు కాదు, ఈజ్ అ మెచ్యూర్డ్ క్యాండిడేట్ యాక్చువల్లీ. హీఈస్ అన్ యంగ్ ఏజ్ యాక్చువల్లీ. The thing that I'm trying to do here, in the Asian context, or typically adoption happens only when the children are small. చిన్నప్పుడు పిల్లలు చిన్నప్పుడుగా అంటే చిన్నగా ఉన్నప్పుడు మాత్రమే వాళ్ళని అడాప్ట్ చేసుకుంటారు, దత్తత తీసుకుంటారు కదా. కానీ రోమన్ కాంటెక్స్ట్లో అలా కాదు. నువ్వు ఎప్పుడైనా దత్తత తీసుకోవచ్చు, చచ్చే ముందు కూడా దత్తత తీసుకోవచ్చు. అర్థమవుతుందా? అడాప్షన్ అనేది పిల్లలు లేకో తల్లిదండ్రులు లేకో చేయాల. అడాప్షన్ అనేది వారసులు ఎవరుగా ఉండాలి అనేది అడాప్షన్ డిసైడ్ చేస్తుంది అన్నమాట. సో ఇక్కడ జూలియస్ సీజర్కి 4 కొడుకులు ఉండొచ్చేమో, కానీ తన విల్ అంటే రాస్తారు కదా, ఆ విల్లో ఏమి రాస్తే వాళ్ళే అసలు వారసులు అవుతాడు. సో కొడుకులు ఉన్నంత మాత్రం వాళ్ళు వారసులు కాదు. వారసులు ఎవరు అవుతారనేది తండ్రి మాత్రం డిసైడ్ చేస్తాడనమాట. సో ఇక్కడ జూలియస్ సీజర్కి కొడుకులు లేరు, కానీ ఒకవేళ కొడుకులు ఉన్నా కానీ జూలియస్ సీజర్కి కంప్లీట్ కంట్రోల్ ఉంది, కంప్లీట్ రైట్స్ ఉంది. సో ఇక సీజర్ ఏం చేస్తారంటే గాయస్ ఆక్టేవియస్ని తన దత్తపుత్రుడిగా తీసుకుంటాడు. సో ఎప్పుడైతే దత్తపుత్రుడిగా తీసుకుంటాడో ఆక్టేవియస్ లీవ్స్ హిస్ హోమ్, లీవ్స్ హిస్ పేరెంట్స్ and his entire family, all the property, and moves to Rome. You know what happens? If you are being adopted, నిన్ను ఎవరైనా దత్తత తీసుకుంటున్నానంటే రోమా కాంటెక్స్లో నీ ప్రతి ఒక్క అప్పు మొదట తీర్చివేయబడాలి. నీ అప్పులు అట్లా ఉంచి నేను ఎవరు దత్తత తీసుకోలేను అనమాట. సో నీకున్న అన్ని అప్పులు కూడా తీసేసేయాలి, నీకున్న ప్రతి సంబంధం రిలేషన్స్ కూడా అన్నీ క్యాన్సిల్ అయిపోతాయి. సో నీ తల్లిదండ్రులు మారిపోతారు, నీ అక్క చెల్లెలు మారిపోతారు, నీ ఇల్లు మారిపోతుంది, నీ అడ్రస్ మారిపోతుంది, చివరికి నీ పేరు కూడా మారిపోయే అవకాశం ఉంది. ఒక కంప్లీట్ న్యూ లైఫ్ అనేది బిగిన్ అవుతుంది అనమాట. సో గాయస్ ఆక్టేవియస్ కమ్స్ ఫ్రమ్ వెరీ ఫార్ డిస్టెన్స్ అండ్ బికమ్స్ Caesar himself, Augustus Caesar, when he takes over right after Julius Caesar. The point that I'm trying to make here is that in the Roman context, the best option is, the best person in the family is the adopted son, not the natural born children. Please understand this concept. The safest person, the most privileged person in the family is the adopted son, not the natural born child. సొంతగా పుట్టిన కొడుకులు ఉంటారు కదా, వాళ్ళు చాలా డేంజర్లో ఉంటారు. ఎందుకంటే తండ్రికి ఇష్టం లేకపోతే ఏ రోజైనా కానీ వాళ్ళు చంపేసేయచ్చు. పిల్లలకి వాల్యూ లేదు రోమన్ కాంటెక్స్ట్లో. 14 సంవత్సరాలు వచ్చేంత వరకు కూడా నువ్వు చంపేసుకోండి, ఎవరు పట్టించుకోడు. రోమీలకి ఈ రూల్స్ ఉండవు అనమాట. సో మర్డర్ కేసులు అవి ఇవి ఏమి ఉండవు. నువ్వు చంపేసుకోండి, ఇది మౌంటైన్ నుంచి ఇసిరేసుకోవచ్చు పిల్లల్ని, ఎవ్వరు అడగరు. ఇట్స్ ఆల్ యువర్స్. ఎందుకంటే నీకు పిల్లలు పుడితే నీ పుట్టే పిల్లలు ఏ విధంగా ఉంటారు నీకు తెలుసా? తెలియదు. వాళ్ళు ఏ విధంగా బతుకుతారో తెలుసా? ఏమి తెలియదు. సో నీకు వాళ్ళు నచ్చకపోయినా, నీకు వాళ్ళపైన ప్రేమ లేకపోయినా కానీ, ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు పుట్ దెమ్ టు డెత్, ఓకే, నోబడీ విల్ ఆస్క్. But when it comes to adoption, be careful. Think for 1,000 times if you want to do adoption. దత్తత తీసుకుందామంటే 1000 సార్లు ఆలోచించు కావాలంటే. దత్తత తీసుకున్న తర్వాత నువ్వేం చేయలేవు వాళ్ళని. ఎందుకంటే పుట్టిన పిల్లల గురించి నీకేం తెలియదు కాబట్టి నీకు ఇష్టం లేకపోతే వాళ్ళని చంపేసుకోవచ్చు. కానీ దత్తత తీసుకుంటున్నామంటే వాళ్ళెవరో, వాళ్ళ బ్రతికేంటో, వాళ్ళ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ మొత్తం తెలుసు నీకు. అయినప్పటికీ కూడా నువ్వు తీసుకుంటున్నావంటే ఇట్స్ యువర్ కంప్లీట్ రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీ. యూ కెనాట్ కిల్ బికాస్ దట్ బికమ్స్ లీగల్ క్రైమ్. ఓకే, ఇట్ విల్ బికమ్ ఎ క్రైమ్ అవుతుంది అనమాట ఇది దత్తత తీసుకునే పిల్లల్ని. సో దత్తత తీసుకునే పిల్లలు చాలా సేఫ్. అది న్యాచురల్గా పుట్టిన వాళ్ళకంటే కూడా వీళ్ళు సేఫ్ అనమాట. సో ఇంట్లోకి వచ్చిన తర్వాత మిగతా అన్నదమ్ములు కానీ అక్కచెల్లెలు కానీ ఏమైనా చేసుకోవచ్చు, కానీ దత్తత తీసుకున్న మాత్రం ఏం చేయదు కాదనమాట. చాలా కేర్ఫుల్గా ఉండాలి. ఎందుకంటే హీ బికమ్స్ నౌ ద మెయిన్ పర్సన్ ఇన్ ద ఫ్యామిలీ. హీ బికమ్స్ ద లీగల్ carrier or the successor. He may have children like daughters and sons, so many may be there, but he becomes the main candidate. Okay, so what Paul presents in Galatians is that we are adopted children. We are adopted children. You know what that gives you? Does God know everything about our life? Does God know everything about our life? మన బ్రతుకుల గురించి తెలుసా దేవుడికి? He knows everything about our lives, and still he chose to do the adoption. తెలిసే దత్తత తీసుకుంటున్నాడు. ఓకే, సో తెలిసి దత్తత తీసుకుంటే ఫాదర్ డిసప్పాయింట్ అవుతాడు రేపు. అవ్వడు. ఎందుకంటే నీకు తెలుసు ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తున్నాడు, ఎలాంటి వాడు, తన బ్రతికేంటో లేకపోతే చరిత్ర ఏంటో మొత్తం తెలుసు. సో అయినప్పటికీ కూడా నువ్వు తీసుకుంటున్నావంటే యూ ఆర్ కంప్లీట్లీ సేఫ్. దట్ మీన్స్ ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ నౌ adopted child of God, that means your salvation, your security, your future is completely safe in the hands of God. Nobody can come and throw you outside of the family. Absolutely nobody can come and say that you don't belong here, you're not part of the family. Natural born children may be kicked out, but adopted children cannot be kicked out. So God knows fully well what He is doing to us, and then He still chooses to do that one. Okay, so this is actually a great privilege of being adopted into the family of God. So we enjoy a lot more privileges than natural born children. Okay, so we are adopted children of God, and that's what Paul presents in chapter 4. Chapter 4. Okay, it's a beautiful concept of how Roman adoption happens. So you are always safe in the hands of God. Do you think that you would lose your salvation? No. You cannot lose your salvation. If God doesn't want to give you salvation, then He would not even have started it. మొదలు పెట్టాడే కాదు అసలు. ఎందుకంటే తనకి మన భవిష్యత్తు తెలియదు దేవుడికి, ఎలాంటి వాళ్ళము ఏం చేస్తాము అనేది. He fully knows everything, but still He chose to do that. Okay, so that's a beautiful concept that we have from Roman light. Okay, adoption. Any questions here on this? No. Okay, good. So that is concept of adoption. Now I do like to kind of draw out some prominent concepts that we have in Galatians. So Paul's apostleship was questioned, and he presents a case that I am made apostle by God Himself. Okay, and the next one is that the false gospel or different gospel and he says if anybody preaches, even if an angel comes from heaven and preaches a wrong gospel, let them be eternally condemned. అంటే వాళ్ళకి రిడెంప్షన్ లేదనమాట, వాళ్ళకి ఇక తిరిగి తీసుకురావడానికి లేదనమాట. ఎవరైనా గాస్పల్ని తెలిసి పర్వర్ట్ చేస్తే, తప్పుదారి పట్టిస్తే, గాస్పల్ని తప్పుగా ప్రకటించిన, గాస్పల్కి అంటే ఏదైనా తప్పుడుగా యాడ్ చేసినా కానీ అలాంటి వాళ్ళకి క్షమాపణ కూడా దొరకదనమాట. సో అది that's one thing. And then Paul talks about his time in Arabia. It's making a point that he did not have anything to learn from Jerusalem. Okay, so he didn't learn anything. The next concept would be that whether you are a Jew or a Gentile, there is no difference. Okay? Next one is law is given, Mosaic law is given as a pedagogos, also for the knowledge of sin. Okay, there is one that I would like to discuss in relation to adoption. Just now I remember. When the adoption is done, please pay attention everybody. When the adoption is done, there will be legal witnesses. Okay? The father cannot change his mind once the deal is done. Please understand, okay? The father himself cannot change his mind once a deal is done in relation to adoption. So there will be 7 legal witnesses. లీగల్గా విట్నెస్ సాక్షులు ఉంటారు అనమాట ఇక దత్తత తీసుకునే ఆ ప్రాసెస్లో. సో తండ్రి తన ఇష్టాన్ని మార్చుకున్నా కానీ కుదరదు. వేరొకళ్ళు వచ్చి మేము యాక్సెప్ట్ చేయమన్నా కూడా కుదరదు అనమాట. సో ఈ సాక్షులు ఉంటారు కదా, ఈ సాక్షులు దే కెన్ యాక్చువల్లీ మేక్ ఇట్ అ లీగల్ క్లెయిమ్, a legal they can take it legally to the Roman government itself. Okay, so now who is the witness for our salvation? సాక్షులు ఎవరు? Who is the witness for our salvation? The Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the witness of the testimony. Let me ask you now, whom do we have in us? Holy Spirit. Do we have now God in us? Okay. So if God changes his mind of salvation, can you think of what happens? The Holy Spirit and God the Father and God the Son will have great trouble among those three to lose, if we have to lose our salvation. Christ has done the work for us. It's a done deal. And we received already the Holy Spirit. And if the Father changes the mind now, he's responsible to the Spirit of God. Okay, so it's like one God fighting with another God, or he has to change his mind, or if he has to deny the salvation to us. Are you understanding? That our salvation is so safe and secure. God has to fight with himself if we have to lose our salvation. That's safe and that's secure. So just as I said, you have the testimonies and the witnesses, 7 witnesses. And the witness that we have for our salvation is that we have been given the Holy Spirit. And what does the Holy Spirit tell us? That we belong to God and we are going to heaven. So there is nobody who can tell us that you're not a child of God, that you're not saved. Because we have, so you don't have to worry that where will I go when I die? Why do you have to worry? You have God here and he knows where you should go, right? You have God inside you, so he knows where you should be going. You have nothing to worry at all. It's actually, no, it should give you so much of relaxation. It relieves a lot of mental pressure when it comes to when you understand this concept that you have the Holy God inside, and if you have to lose your salvation, God head himself, they have to fight with each other. That difficult it is for us to lose our salvation. There is no way that we lose our salvation if we are saved. Okay, so it's a beautiful concept that Paul presents in relation to adoption. Okay, so law is given as a pedagogos and to provide the knowledge of sin. And the right time, I also talked about the festival of Liberalia. That happens on March 17th of every year. March 17th. Festival of Liberalia, every year March 17th. Freedom from law, circumcision, and Christian freedom to live for God. So how do we know that? How do we know how to live for God? The Holy Spirit teaches us how do we live for God. It's not very difficult. It's not like you have to do a PhD to understand this. You have the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit tells you always whether something is right or wrong. So you don't need to go to the Mosaic Law to understand what is right and what is wrong. You have God himself inside you who tells you what is right and what is wrong. Our job is only to yield towards it. That means you support, you listen to the yielding of the Holy Spirit. You listen to the prompting and the teaching of the Holy Spirit, and so that you can eventually overcome sin. Okay? So don't tell me that I cannot overcome sin. You can, if you allow and yield. If you just, yielding in the sense that you lean towards the Holy Spirit. Okay? If you go against the Holy Spirit, then you won't be able to overcome sin. But if you lean towards the Holy Spirit, then you can definitely overcome sin and live a life that pleases God. So in the last chapter, Paul 5 and 6, he talks about the fruit of the Spirit and also the works of the flesh. So if you allow this body to control you, then you will have only all the bad things. But if you allow the Spirit of God to control your life, then you will have the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, meekness, self-control, and all these things, goodness, all these things. No, so you will have all those things. But how do you experience that? Only if you yield towards the Holy Spirit. Okay, so that is something that we always look forward to, or that we always know should be experiencing. We're not alone here. We're not alone here. Okay, so God Himself is inside us, so we can definitely do this. Any questions here? No questions? So in chapter 6, Paul finally says, if any man gets circumcised, then Christ is no use to him. If any man gets circumcised, Christ is no use to him. Or if any man depends on the work of the works of the Mosaic law for salvation, then you cannot partner with God when it comes to salvation. You cannot partner even in this sense. 99% that God does for your salvation, but then I think I have to read Bible, and I think I have to pray morning and evening, I have to go to churches, and I have to do ministry, only then my salvation is complete. No. Your salvation is not dependent on your things. It's a free gift of God, completely given to you, all by God Himself. Okay? If you think that we can add even 1%, it's actually an insult to the gospel itself. It's an insult to the gospel itself. Okay, you cannot add anything to the gospel or to your salvation. Okay, so it's completely 100% given by God Himself. He completely chose to give it to us, and so we don't add anything, and don't allow any pastors to teach to people that your salvation is not there, or you don't get saved if you don't come to church. We don't go to church for salvation. Since we are saved, we go to church. Okay, please understand this. We don't read Bible to go to heaven. Since we are going to heaven, we do everything. Okay, so that's how it is. If you have any questions, you're free to ask now. Yes. Yeah, no question.